All right. So, my name's TJ. I'm a pastor here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I make videos about the Bible, Bibles, and my everyday life as a pastor. So today we are sitting in my office, my new workspace, which is way different than the one that you guys saw in the video where I made my workspace. And I thought my last video was about my routine for the year. And I thought, well, that doesn't give a whole lot of information about what I do. Like it talks about the tools I use and how I'm going to do it and stuff. So I thought, why not come along with me and do my morning reading routine. Now, it is in the afternoon. This is 12:05. I'm doing a special one for you guys as I start my reading. And I try to read throughout the day multiple times if I can and I'm not super busy. I try to fill my day if I can. But part of the reason that I'm doing it right now is my hang-up last year was First Chronicles, and now I'm in Second Chronicles, and I'm in verse 30 or chapter 31 out of 36 chapters, and so I'm excited to get through this. Not like in a negative sense, like I'm ready to get through it, I don't want to be part of it, but just in the sense that it'll be nice to go from First, Second Chronicles on to Ezra, I believe it is. Look at me go. All right, so let's dive into the video. So I'm going to change the camera angle, and I'm going to put you kind of over my shoulder as I read. I do sit here. I sit in the seat. I read like this. On my desk right now, if you can see, this pen doesn't matter because that's for my prayer journal. I've already done that. But I do have my pencils, my pens, and the dark blue one somewhere around here. And so let's read through chapter 31 and then talk about it. Talk about kind of what I did, and hopefully you can see kind of where I'm going and what I'm doing. Okay, so first off, I want to apologize because I am kind of a slow reader, and so it does take me some time. Even with this clip being sped up, it may still be longer than you want to sit here. So, what you're going to see that I do is I read very specifically and try to get something out of it for me. Now, I know the Bible is not about me. It's about God and what He has done for us as believers. I am not the hero story. God is through the gift of His Son, Jesus Christ. However, I do try to focus on getting something out of it. So, you see me reach for the blue pen or the blue pencil and highlight there. What that means to me is that historically this is an interesting fact, an interesting thing that I see going on. And so I jump in and I highlight that in colored pencil. And then I finish out the verse. Now, the reason that I use colored pencil over like markers or highlighters or whatever is I do feel like they don't bleed through as much, and I do want to keep my Bible nice, but also stick out with what I'm doing. So then I have the black marker or the black fine liner. It's a Micron 003, super fine. Now I don't have the best handwriting, but then I write in there what stuck out to me. Like I'm pretty sure that I wrote down. Sorry, I have my Bible right in front of me right now. I'm pretty sure I wrote get to work and do it. Get rid of the idols in your life is what I wrote. And then if you notice, I'll fold my Bible. I'm a Bible folder. That's just what I do. It's part of the reason that I like thin lines. It's part of the reason that I like Bibles that are foldable is because of that. Like I just enjoy being able to fold my Bible page so that, one, it gives me more access to the margin, and then two, it just gives a little bit less of a like I don't have to have the Bible strewn out across my lap. What I'm looking for, especially like when I'm going through Chronicles, is areas that I like stand out to me. So I pick up the teal ish twistable, and I start highlighting. That teal means that something is interesting and stuck out to me. So again, and non-historic, like it stuck out as something that I find interesting within the text. So you'll see that one a lot. Because I probably use the teal more than any of the other highlighters that I have. And so what I put there is the king led by example. For instance, the king contributed of his own possessions and then urged the people, hey, let's give a contribution for the priests and Levites so that they could devote their energy to the law of the Lord. And so, like, as leadership, part of what I've been reading through this, like on my read through of the Bible, being a first couple year pastor, is to what leadership looks like. Especially, I've gone through Kings and Chronicles. So what does leadership look like, and how do I make sure that I'm the best biblical leader that I can be? And so I put lead by example. If I'm going to ask people to do something, I need to be doing it as well, and not just expecting them to do it. And so that's what the blue one's for. And then normally what I do is, like within the either red highlighting or the teal highlighting, I put brackets and then put why I highlighted it. I try to do that. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes there is no like rhyme or reason to why the highlighter is there. And then it's just something that stuck out to me. And so when I go back through, I can reread. So what I'm highlighting here is... It says, when Hezekiah and his officials came and viewed the piles, they blessed the Lord and his people Israel. And I went a little further, but listen, when God moves, like what stuck out to me there is when God moves, we need to give him praise for moving. Like, I mean, obviously, Hezekiah is the king, so people probably should listen to him, especially in this time frame. It's a little hard to understand because we don't have a king anymore, but when God moves, and the piles, they were overflowing, and when they saw them, he blessed the Lord and his people. And then he asked the priests about it. He asked the priests and the Levites, and they're like, dude, we've had more than enough, we're satisfied, and there's plenty left over. So really, really interesting that they're specific about praising God and the people. I think sometimes, especially in church leadership, we're good at the praising God portion and like, oh, thank God for what he's done, but we oftentimes forget that man, it takes people to do ministry. It takes people to bring ministry opportunities. It takes people to financially invest in your ministry. It takes people to be there to minister to. And so a lot of times I think that we forget to praise also the people for what they do, including in church, our volunteers. I think we forget to thank our volunteers for what they do in the ministry. I will tell you that, like, especially going through Chronicles, I've noticed, but there is a lot of genealogy stuff, a lot of names. And if you go to Beacon Hill, I am not good at names. And so I really try to be intentional about trying to figure out what the name is instead of just going like there's one in verse 15 here that's Miniamin is how I read it, and I sat there for a little bit going, okay, is that right? Or Shemaiah, or Shemaiah, and just trying to make sure that I'm taking time instead of just like, okay, there's names, like let's get past them, but to take in the importance of the names. And so, here in this section that you see kind of to the right of my page, it's talking about how they then went and like gave out and distributed what like the stuff in the piles they were giving out. It deals a lot with by genealogy to this generation, also to those recorded by a genealogy of the priest, by their ancestral families, by the Levites 20 years old and above. There's a portion where it's they give it to a genealogy, the family genealogy 3 years and up, and so that's super interesting. And then so as I turn the page, one of the last thing that really stuck out big time to me was that just as Hezekiah did this throughout all Judah, he did what was good and upright and true before the Lord his God. He was diligent in every deed that he began in the service of God, in God's temple, in the instruction and the commands in order to seek his God, and he prospered. We need to make sure that we are diligent about our leadership, and that we are diligent at pointing to Christ, and that we are diligent in what we do. And I think a lot of times we become complacent, like either to the point where we just don't do it, or we become complacent, like we just go through the motion. So we need to be diligent in what we are doing, and diligent in following the Lord as he leads us. So that is kind of what I do. And obviously I didn't go too far, right? We could have gone into 32. We could have done that. But I thought this would be long enough. And so, listen, be diligent in your study this year. Like, God has given us the Bible for a very specific reason. So let's jump back over to the main camera and let's wrap up. All right, so it is the next day, and so I apologize for not finishing this yesterday, although you don't know. It was like 20 seconds, not even 20. It was like 0.0 seconds for you. I had some friends come over. A guest speaker that we had in for Impact Week was leaving, so our youth director Anthony brought him over to say goodbye. It was a great week. So, like I said, that's my Bible study. That's kind of what I do. Now, there are differences to Bible study. Sometimes I'll jump on my computer and go to Blue Letter Bible. Sometimes I'll jump into one of these here commentaries. I have one over here. Here, let me grab it real quick. So right now I'm using, so this is actually the first commentary that I have purchased. I didn't really understand the desire or need for them for a long time, which I know some of you are like, man, you're an idiot. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not classically trained at all. One of the things that I always tell people about my style as far as pastoring or even preaching is I'm unorthodox. And I'm not talking about like unorthodox, like unorthodox in tradition, like in everything. And so I don't have this classical training, and like I had to really figure out why commentaries were important. And once I did, man, they're expensive. And when you're balling on a budget, sometimes you're like, yeah, maybe it's not worth it. But I found these two. It's a Old Testament and a New Testament, it's a one volume set of each. And this kind of started my first like dig into commentaries as books. And I really like this one. So you can grab them and you can go through, and they have a commentary on what you just read. Hezekiah's Pride, Hezekiah the Boaster, which is where I'm at. And I was in 2 Chronicles 32 and 33 today. So, and then this goes down and even like gives you cross references and stuff in it, so it's really good. So what I do with these, I break out commentaries more when I'm studying for messages and sermons, is when I tend to break these out. And I just started breaking them out recently as we go through the Old Testament, because I don't know about you, sometimes reading the Old Testament can be hard and can be a struggle. So we're in Jonah for our Sunday, so I have Jonah chapter 1 and 2. And then I go through and I highlight or underline. I don't really highlight what I think is interesting. You know, I could use a highlighter. The paper is nice enough to do that. But that's what I had. So this is my first forte in it. So now it's pulling them out and going through them with the Chronicles, like when I go through. And definitely will pull them out for Ezra. And I will pull them out for an Ezekiel study that we're doing in our men's Bible study. But it's just extra help. And it's not even about the help or like necessarily all that, but it's just good information when you're studying the Old Testament. You don't get it. There are so many resources that you can use. You can use commentaries. You can use there's a series called the B series by Wiersbe that is like little booklet commentaries. I actually use them for classes. Like I'm going through a class on Hebrews, and this one's Be Confident, going through the book of Hebrews, and those are really cool to go through. There's Blue Letter Bible, there's Logos Bible software, there's so many different resources that we have today to help us study the Word. My encouragement for you is don't feel like you have to have the nicest and best of anything. That includes your Bible, and we'll talk about that in another video. But don't feel like you have to purchase a commentary and purchase all this stuff. Jump online. You can go to blueletterbible.com, and it's just right there. Like, I think I even have it. Blue Letter Bible. Boom. And then it's right there on your screen, and you have it, and you have your resource. You can search up words, topics. It'll break down Greek and stuff. And it's a free resource for you right now. So my encouragement is just jump into your Word, read it. I mean, things will stick out. Like this morning, again, like I said, we're in the next day. I just wrapped up chapter 32, and it talks about an invasion that's happening, and the king of Assyria sitting outside the walls, Sennacherib's invasion, and saying, "Be strong," Hezekiah is saying, "Hey, be strong, be courageous." Like, yeah, he has big armies, but we serve the Lord our God, and so we will overcome. Listen, we face battles all the time, and like we need to stand strong, because like what is formed against us will never prosper. Rely on God. He brings victories. The victories don't make sense. He does it all throughout the Old Testament. We see him do it all throughout the New Testament. We see him do it in our lives all the time. And then you see how the king of Syria is speaking out against God, and they've done this tactic before. They've mocked the gods of the people they're attacking to get them to falter, and then boom, they have the victory. Mental warfare is a real thing between us, between others. You can watch it in the fight game too. This video is getting a little long, so let me wrap it up with this. Study your word. You don't want to have like a highlighting, note-taking system like I do, or that's overwhelming. Cool, don't do it. Grab yourself one pen and one color, and just stick with, oh, that was really interesting to me, or that stuck out, that spoke to me, and then just jot a little note. Like, hey, my Bible doesn't have wide margins. Okay, notate it in a notebook. That's fine. I love the margins in my Bible because I don't have to have two books sitting next to each other. I can just kind of write in the side. But you don't have one? Sweet. Grab a notebook. But just dig into your word. I find that on days that I dig into my word in the mornings and I do some study time in the mornings, it's a far better day than when I don't. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's a placebo effect. Or maybe digging into the word of God is important. Hey, I want you to know one thing. Jesus Christ loves you so much. He gave his life for you. You are loved, and Jesus is the only way to the Father. So hopefully you guys have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Be blessed.